Hello, everyone. Welcome to this last Friday in Easter. This weekend, as I told you yesterday, we celebrate the Feast of Pentecost, which concludes the Easter season and is considered the birth of the church. It's when the Spirit that Jesus promised is given to his mother and his disciples. I talked about the gift of the Spirit we call discernment, the discernment of spirits, in terms of choices, discerning between goods. And it's always discerning between competing goods. It's not obvious which is better. Today, I want to talk about another. There are many gifts of the Spirit, but I want to talk about another gift of the Spirit. Classically, it's referred to as fortitude. But fortitude is the courage to do what one knows is right. Now, you may have noticed this is a different setting than our usual fireside chats or gardenside chats. And that's because I thought it would be appropriate, since I'm talking last time and this time about the guidelines we need to put in place as we prepare to recommence the public celebrations of Mass in our church. Courage is going to be a gift of the Spirit that we all need. The courage to do the right thing. Not the convenient thing, not the comfortable thing, but the right thing, the life-giving thing. Maya Angelou, wonderful writer, poet, novelist, she left us with these words to help us rise above the worst in our days, in ourselves, and in others. And I'm going to quote her. "I am convinced that courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage you cannot practice any other virtue consistently. You can be kind for a while. You can be generous for a while. You can be just for a while, or merciful for a while, even loving for a while. But it is only with courage that you can be persistently and insistently kind and generous and fair." So wrote Maya Angelou. So this weekend we celebrate the Feast of Pentecost, when Jesus sent his gift of the Spirit to his mother and his disciples. We need those gifts of the Spirit in our faith community, in our church, in our city, in our state, in our country, in our world, more than ever. Especially the gifts of discernment and courage, as we slowly resume the public celebrations of Mass here at St. Ignatius. And I think I mentioned last time, but it is official, that at St. Ignatius we will recommence the public celebration of Mass on Monday, June 8th. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll be doing daily Masses. And then on Saturday, there will be a morning Mass, 8 o'clock. And then the Vigil Mass at 5:30. And on Sunday, we're going to start with a 7:30 in the morning Mass and an 11:30. The reason there are fewer on the weekend is because we need time in order to sanitize everything. Now, these guidelines, I shared some of them with you last time. they're not going to feel natural. So be prepared. They are going to feel like speed bumps in a parking lot. I don't know about you, but I hate those speed bumps. But they're important to get people to drive at a slow enough pace that they are not a danger to the children, to the elderly, to all the others that are there in that parking lot. These guidelines are going to feel like obstacles that impede our way and that we continually must step over, but they are critical to our staying safe. So let me continue with those guidelines. I shared some of them with you. Just a reminder, I mentioned that all Catholics continue to be dispensed from their obligation to attend Sunday Mass and Holy Days until further notice from the bishop. Those of us 65 and older, those uncomfortable attending now, you might be experiencing fear, concern, and those with who just don't feel well, you should continue to shelter at home, okay? So Father Mike is 75. Technically, I'm not supposed to be at these. I'm in that at-risk population with many of you from the parish. I will be helping with the masses, but I will not be distributing communion. That's the one area where it would be most dangerous for someone in the at-risk population. So we'll be having one of the Eucharistic ministers do that for me for the time being. Seating in the church is going to be limited on weekends to 85 attendees at the Saturday Vigil and the 2 Sunday morning masses. On the weekdays at our 8 a.m. Mass, and those days we have a 5:30 p.m. Mass, there can be 94 attendees. Now, 100 is the guideline, and the reason those numbers are less is because a number of those places will be taken, like when I said there are 85 places available on Sunday. Well, we have musicians, we have lectors, we have Eucharistic ministers, we have hospitality ministers, we have the priest, we have a sacristan. So there are places that are taken up just in the doing of the liturgy. These limits will ensure we comply with the maximum number of people permitted in our church by the county and the state. We're going to be using our website to sign up for a place at one of these masses. That'll be going up very soon. For those people that don't have access to a computer and email and our website, they can phone in. By the way, all these guidelines will be in the bulletin for this week, which will be on our website, okay? So people who don't have access to email or a computer, they can phone in for a place. The county is asking us to take contact information for those of you attending, email and phone numbers in case they need to do contact tracing. In other words, should one of us get sick, they can find out who had we been in contact with that may have given the coronavirus to us, or someone else that we may have given it to. Okay? It's a precaution. What I want to stress is that you can't just show up at the church. There are no walk-ins. This is going to be hardest for people who are not registered in St. Ignatius Parish, but regularly attend. These are going to be posted on all our doors. There are no walk-ups or walk-ins. you have to have registered online or phoned in and receive confirmation you have a place for that liturgy. Again, our apologies for this, but this is the only way for the time being that we can ensure the safety of everyone. And hopefully soon we'll be able to go back to whatever the new normal is. All parishioners and guests must wear masks at St. Ignatius at all times except when receiving communion. So you need to bring a mask with you and you need to wear it during the service. That's for your protection and that's for all of our protection. We suggest that you arrive early as it will take some time to seat everyone. We're going to be opening the doors probably about 30 minutes before each of the masses. However, it's not recommended to be in a confined area for long periods of time. I think you will be fine if you were to come 15 minutes before the Mass begins. And then just remember, we're going to be practicing physical distancing, except for family members living together. That will be required. Now on the weekends, you're going to enter by the north door. The north door are the doors through which most of the people come through into the church on a Sunday. They're the doors that are facing the parking lot in front of the school. That'll be the only way you'll be able to get in. For those of you that have mobility challenges, you will be allowed to go through the south entrance near the chapel, but only people with mobility problems or those assisting them, because it'll be easier for you to get in. We want this, by the way, all these guidelines are going to be in the bulletin this weekend. So you enter through the north. Hospitality ministers will coordinate entering and exiting of the church. It's going to take a little bit more time. And we're going to begin on the weekends seating at the pews closest to the altar. Your arrival time in church will determine where you are seating. And we're going to be blocking off every other pew. We will also use the interior center doors only, okay? Please respect the 6-foot distancing markers on the sidewalks and inside the church. No socializing before or after Mass. Isn't this, it's so strange. We work so hard to get you to socialize, and now because of the danger from the coronavirus pandemic, we have to ask you, please, no socializing before or after Mass. Exiting on the weekends will start from the back pews on weekends and from the front on weekdays, because they would be, the front rows would be closest to those side doors and the south entrance. Exiting will start from the back pews on weekends and from the front on weekdays. Hand sanitizers are going to be available, and you should sanitize your hands before receiving communion. Communion at St. Ignatius Parish will only be distributed in the hand. In some parishes, they will be offering communion on the tongue. That represents, number one, a potential health danger, and number two, every time a Eucharistic minister offers communion on the tongue, the guideline states they must sanitize their hands. It takes 1 minute for that sanitizing to take effect. If 5 people came up for communion on the tongue, that would make communion extend for an additional 5 minutes. In respect to both health, safety, and reasonable time limits, we will only be distributing communion in the hand. For those that receive a gluten-free host, there will be pyxes with gluten-free host. You'll be given the pyx, you may open it up, take out the gluten-free host, consume it, and then give the pyx back at the end of the service. Mass times as we begin will be 8 a.m. on Monday, the 8th of June, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. And as I said, on the weekends, there'll be the Saturday 5:30 Vigil Mass in the 5:30 p.m. Vigil Mass, and a 7:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Mass on Sunday. This will give us time to sanitize the church between Masses, and we will add more Masses as needed. Please dispose of weekend worship aids in the recycle bins. They can't be reused. That's one of the ways the germs of this virus can be passed on. So whatever worship aid we have, take it home if you want it, dispose of it, but it cannot be reused. Okay? All right, is that enough rules? We'll get through this. We'll get through this together, okay? But it'll take some courage. I want to finish with 2 things. There's actually a comic book and a comic strip that features Pope Francis. It's called, oddly enough, Francis. So it's got a Franciscan sitting in a lounge chair and reading A Tale of Two Cities. And so this young Franciscan says, "Holy Father, how can the worst of times also be the best of times?" Of course, that's how the novel begins. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So that's his question to Pope Francis. And Pope Francis says, the worst of times hold opportunities for courage. The young Franciscan says, and this helps you to choose between the 2 cities? Pope Francis responds, for us, it's more about choosing between 2 futures. And then there is a Muslim woman standing there, and she says, how do we know which future to choose? Pope Francis says, choose the one that gives life. And the young Franciscan says, stay calm and don't lose your head. That's courage. So while these guidelines will be awkward at first, we'll get used to them. We can deal with them, and they will keep us safe. They will help us choose life. So as we prepare for Pentecost, let me conclude with a prayer for the gifts of the Spirit, for discernment, for courage, and the other gifts of the Spirit. God, give us the strength to face all challenges. Help us make good choices and the right decisions. Remove bitterness from our hearts and replace it with compassion. May we use the free will you give us for the benefit of all your people. May we act with kindness and consideration for others. May this world be a better place because we were in it. Amen. So as we prepare for Pentecost this weekend, and as we prepare for the resumption of public masses, continue to stay grateful, stay hopeful, and especially stay safe. God bless you all.